Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you the best way to fit a section of butcher block countertop between two sections of granite. Think of it as like a built-in cutting board. The techniques and the steps that I use are exactly the same for fitting a regular standalone butcher countertop. There's a story behind this installation, so let's just get that out of the way first. Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to talk about installing a butcher block cabinet. It's actually a small section of butcher block. It's about 36 inches. The story behind this is my daughter bought a condo. She's 24 years old, is now house poor, didn't have a lot of money, and the kitchen had this like 4-foot wide space. It was like a galley kitchen. It was really small. She hated it. She's a cook. And there was a bedroom behind the kitchen. I was looking, I did a little investigation behind it, and basically determined it's a partition wall. So I proposed to her, I said, let me do this for you. I know you don't have any money to do any of this, but I said, let me push this wall back about 3 feet. At the same time, we were doing a remodel in Concord, and we were taking out this kitchen. It was probably a 15-year-old kitchen, nice cabinets. They didn't match exactly. So I grabbed two 33-inch cabinets, an upper, base and an upper, and we moved that wall back. We put the base and the upper in, we put some filler strips in, and we basically enlarged her kitchen about 38 inches, maybe close to 40 by the time we were done. Filled in the hardwood floor. Now the kitchen cabinets didn't match, so we had our painter spray paint them, and I took the granite out of the this job in Concord, and I saved it. So I brought it to my granite supplier. They don't like to do this, but I said, look, for my daughter, this is not our normal course of business. I don't normally ask you to do this, but would you please template this kitchen and see what you can get out of this granite that we took. It had a sink cut out and everything. So they did. They got almost the entire kitchen done except for 3 feet. So what we decided to do, and there was a 2-foot piece left over, so they put the 2-foot piece on one end and they finished the granite, and they left a 3-foot piece in between the two pieces of granite. So what we decided to do is I'm going to fill that space in with butcher block. Just went to Home Depot for about 110 bucks, picked up some like birch butcher block. Again, budget. This is not our normal work that we do normally. And this is to buy her time for 5 years or so, and she can pay for a new kitchen. So today I'm going to show you how we did that. We've been kind of wheeling and dealing, kind of working with this kitchen using recycled materials, which is kind of cool. The only thing that's new in this kitchen will be the hardwood floor that we patched in, the faucet and the disposal, because why put a 20-year disposal back on, right? Same thing with the faucet. So I'm going to start setting up, and we'll pick it up inside the house. All right, so here is the butcher block. And again, I just picked the stuff at Home Depot, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to use this. You can use mineral oil as well, but I think this is a better product. And I just looked for something that kind of had consistent grain. A lot of the stuff at Home Depot has a lot of darker pieces in it. This was the lightest piece I could find. Okay, so there are many varieties of butcher block that you can purchase, and I purchased a birch counter, butcher block counter at Home Depot. As a carpenter, I was always taught and learned the hard way, really, that story poles and templates make for an easier, better fitting application when you're fitting parts. In this situation, using a template is way more accurate than trying to go off a tape measure and paper. One simple way to make a template is to just use strips, 3-inch strips of luan plywood. Butcher block countertops usually come 25 inches deep. That's going to cover a standard 24-inch deep base cabinet with room for an overhang, as well as let you deal with some gaps and unevenness on the back wall. Now for the template, lay out strips of luan along your perimeter where you're going to put your butcher block. Just be sure that you keep the strips tight to the sides of the counter edges and that back wall, and remember to include for your overhang. Now in my situation, I was matching an existing granite overhang, so I went to that point. I connect my parts with hot glue, and once that glue is dry, I place a few short screws into the corners for reinforcement, especially if I'm transporting it. I use pencil marks on all the intersections so that I know if anything moved. It's good indicator marks. I also mark front, back, and sides. I do that so when I go back to the saw, I don't get confused. My counter opening was not square, and had I not used a template and relied on my tape measure, it would not have been a good fit. One pro tip for you though is that if you have a back wall that is really bowed or curved or something, I would deal with that first, and I would scribe my back piece first. Maybe use a wider piece of luan, scribe that, and then build my template to that. All right, let's talk about cutting the butcher block to size. Like a lot of wood species today, butcher block actually comes with two different faces. There's a side A, which I would call the countertop side. It's a better face, and a side B, and that side typically has more knots. Make sure you use the best side facing up. Align your template with your finished front edge, and then I used a couple of clamps, and then I hold it down as I'm tracing, and I trace my template onto the face of that butcher block. I then use a track saw to cut the sides at 90 degrees, and then when I get to the back edge of the butcher block to cut that, I back cut that. I set my saw at a bevel, 5 or 10 degree bevel. I use a back bevel because it allows for a nice sharp edge to go against the wall, and I can fine tune that edge easier with a hand plane than I'm just have to plane that little edge off that touches the wall. I don't have to plane the whole 1.5 inch thickness. Now, after cutting and getting it cut, I then go back and dry fit it and put it between the granite countertops and make my adjustments as needed to get that fit until I'm satisfied with a good fit. A pro tip here is, as a finished carpenter, I want my miters and my angles and my fits to be super tight, but it's important to note that when butcher block countertops are installed against hard surfaces like granite, you really should leave a little bit of room for expansion and contraction of the wood. It moves differently than the stone. And I allowed for about an inch, 1/32 on each side, and I'm hoping that's enough. Now, once everything's cut, I dry fit it, then I've got to ease the edges. Butcher block countertops are typically 1.5 inches thick, and the granite that I was fitting to was 1.25 inches. So I needed to round over that edge because it was going to show, it was going to be higher and exposed. I used a 3/8 inch radius bit and ball bearing router bit and my cordless router. And I routed the sides and front over again to get that edge. The next step is sanding. Typically, butcher block will come pre-finished to about 120 grit, pre-sanded. I sanded the top and 3 edges with evenly with 100 to 150 grit sandpaper and a random orbital sander. And I did this to remove scratches and mill marks in the wood, and also the router bit marks that sometimes are left. One trick to seeing mill marks is you can either use a flashlight at an angle or just use a rag and some denatured alcohol and wipe down the wood. It will raise the mill marks a little bit, so you might have to sand again, but it will also show the mill marks, and then you can sand those out before finishing. Now, one pro tip is resist the temptation to sand to a higher grit that's gonna prevent the sealer from absorbing. You know, you're not looking for a car finish here. Also, lightly sand the bottom edge of the butcher block so you can etch it to allow better absorption of your finish as well. And remember that all 6 sides of the butcher block need to be sealed within 48 hours of unwrapping it and opening it. And that's to prevent moisture and stuff, the board from moving. Another pro tip for you is this is the stage where you can address any defects or voids in that butcher block. At this point, you want to fill it in either with epoxy or CA glue and resand it. After that, you're going to apply finish. And remember, you have to seal all 6 edges and sides to prevent cupping from seasonal humidity and moisture absorption. You want to use a food safe finish. Most finishes for this are a tung oil with an additive. That's food safe, and it's food safe after the oil is completely cured. Now, I used Watco Butcher Block and Oil Finish. I like the Watco brand, I'm familiar with it. It's easy to use, and it's food safe finish. So Watco requires 6 hours and 40 grit etching between additional coats. They recommend up to 4 to 6 coats. And then waiting 72 hours before using the board. I brushed on a finish and I wiped it off pretty quickly. You know, they say sometimes leave it on 15-20 minutes to absorb. But I just wanted a quick coat to protect the wood so that I could then install it. I intend to let this coat dry for about 2 days, and then I'm going to apply 2 to 4 more coats, probably 4 more coats. But I got to wait 6 hours in between. All right, let's move on to fastening the butcher block down to the base cabinet. To prepare for my installation, I started off by drilling 5/8 inch holes. I used a Forstner bit in each of the 4 corner braces on every base cabinet, and in my Lazy Susan I drilled through the top because it was thicker. If possible, and in a perfect application, you want to make sure that you fasten your countertop every 24 to 30 inches front and back. Just remember that too many fasteners can keep a butcher block from moving and can cause it to crack or cup or damage. Typically a fastener at each corner bracket or corner of each base cabinet is fine. Now after drilling, I removed some of the drawers and slides so that I could get in there with my cordless drill, and then I then drilled 1/8 inch pilot holes through each of those larger 5/8 holes, right up into the butcher block. I have the butcher block in place now. I set my drill bit to 3/4 to 1 inch penetration into the 1.5 inch butcher block. I know this is obvious, but it's worth mentioning, and I've made the mistake here. Pay attention here to set that drill bit depth. You do not want to drill through your countertop. Now when drilling that pilot hole, be sure to drill it directly in the center of that 5/8 inch hole. And there's a reason for that. Once you secure that countertop down, I'm going to use like 1.5 inch, 1 inch fender washers and a pan head screw. I used a GRK screw, and that's going to penetrate about halfway through the thickness of the countertop. And that oversized hole and fender washer is going to allow the screw to move with the countertop a little bit, with kind of expansion, contraction with seasonal changes in temperatures and humidity. One pro tip here is do not glue or silicone down your top. It will prevent expansion and can cause a warp or crack on your boards. Also, do not install it on, say, other countertops or directly on a solid surface such as plywood or MDF or something like that, because it prevents the board from breathing. Now moving on, once everything's installed, as far as maintenance goes, I would refinish whenever the board gets dry and kind of chalky, I guess. You can clean the butcher block with soap and water daily, and then you can disinfect it if you think you need to with like a Clorox wipe or something that kills 99% of viruses and bacteria. Those cleaning wipes that they sell. Butcher block, guys, it's an affordable material. It's less money than granite, and if budget is an issue, it's often a great alternative. It's also kind of a cool look. So a lot of times people might do an island or something, or a section like I did, a drop-in section with butcher block, and it doesn't break the bank. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please leave me a comment, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click the notification bell. I'm Rob Robillard. We'll see you next time. Thanks.